So what we're going to be looking at today is a basic hand sewing technique for simple leather work. If anybody was here for last year's show, we definitely did a lecture on leatherwork and how it all fits in and how it's happened throughout history and all that stuff. That full video is online, so you can find that and have a look back. What we did find from that was lots of people coming over and asking about hand sewing. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So we are going to make a wallet and we're going to give it away. Ooh. So it's going to be something similar to this one. Are we on the big screen? Yeah, so it's going to be something similar to this one. This one is very worn and used and empty at the moment. But because we're at Maker Central, it's got to be a Maker Central one, right? So, best question is going to win this at the end. Are we all excited? Brilliant. So, the first thing that we're going to do, I've taken a couple of shortcuts for this demo because we've got Nick and Jimmy over on the main stage straight after this, doing a nice big talk, so I don't want to miss it, I don't want you guys to miss it, so I'm going to try and keep this as tight as possible. So I have taken a couple of shortcuts. So what I've done here is I've already cut my pattern out, and I've already done just some finishing things on here, so I've smoothed out the edges a little bit, and I've put a saddler's crease on. You don't need to put saddler's crease on, it's just there to make things look fancy. So the things that we do need to put on before we start doing any hand sewing is our stitch line. We've all got a set of wing dividers. Most people have got a set of wing dividers. There are really, really fancy leatherworking tools out there. I'm trying to keep this as user-friendly as possible because not everybody here is going to be a leather worker. We have one set of tools which you will need for working with leather, and I'll show you those in a minute. So the first thing I'm going to use are some wing dividers. These are set to 4mm. I would measure them, but I don't know if we'll pick it up on here, but they definitely are. And all we're going to do with these is we're going to mark our stitch line around the leather. So all we're going to do is gently apply some pressure. I'm just going to mark all the way down. So what this is a stitch line. So if we think about sewing with machines, we'd give ourselves a seam allowance. Essentially it's the same thing. When we are hand sewing leather, we punch all of the holes first, which is the specialist tools that we need. So what we need to do is make sure that we've got plenty of material allowance, which is why we're going to run this round here. So I'm just going to run this round the rest of it, nice and quickly.
If anybody has any questions while this goes on, just throw your hand up and I'll be out there and I'll help you all out as it goes on. Here we go, here we go.
I passed a 3-piece sweep from root. Can you use any sort of leather to do that?
Yeah, pretty much. So really good question. If you didn't hear it, what sort of leathers can we use? Can we use an old sofa? Can we upcycle a chair? Things like that. Yes you can. So this particular one, can we see it on screen? Yeah, so this one is a very, very thin leather. It's exactly the same pattern. This pattern, by the way, is available from my website for free. You can download it. And there's a build along video on the YouTube channel as well. So youtube.com/handmade by Alex. That's me. And yes, you can use pretty much anything. Can you pass this to Steve? So that one's a very thin leather, and it will work within reason. You do want something with a bit more substance. So we're making, let me just re-go over this, we're making an OTF or out the front wallet. So all of your cards and things go in the front. Here's one I made earlier. I mean, I've made a lot of these earlier. So can we see this? Yeah. So everything pops in and out the front. So it's a minimalist front pocket carry. I've got 7 or 8 cards in here, some cash and some business cards. Not a problem at all. Is that okay for you? Yeah? Cool. So the specific leatherworking tools that I mentioned are stitching chisels or pricking irons. Is it about stitching chisels? Excellent.
Yeah, I've been working with sort of 3mm, 4mm vegetable leather,
Yep.
entry-level diamond pricking tools, and even just joining two bits of leather together, it's so hard to get the tool out. It's damaging at times. And why is that? What can I do to make it better?
I'm going to show you. So the thing that we need to do, it depends on the, so the question there was, struggling with retrieving the tool from leather. Do you know what? I'll show you. I will make this wallet. If I don't make it in the demo, I'll sit at the back and make it, and we will still give it away at the end of the day, okay? So, just to give an example, there are two different types of hole making facilities. So we've got stitching chisels, and we've got pricking irons. So a pricking iron looks like this. So I have a full set here. Let me know if we can see this on the screen. Are we on? Can we see it? Yeah, cool. So these are pricking irons. We'll get them in different sizes, different spaces. But what we can see on here, hopefully, is that the teeth taper down and they're also on an angle. So these create what's called a diamond hole. The reason we use a diamond hole is because when we're pulling the thread tight, it doesn't, if you've got just holes and you pull, you've got really small surface area and it will just rip straight through. So on a diamond, which we'll show you when we eventually get around to doing some stitching, is you'll get an angle which offsets the tension that you're pulling and it won't just rip through. So this one here is a stitcher. This is a pricking iron. So it's made for pricking. So what we would do with this, are we in shot? Yeah. So what we do with this one, I am missing a tooth, so we put our stitching line on. We're going to support with one hand. I'm actually going to use this bit underneath because I don't want to pound into this. And what we're going to do, we're going to make some noise. It's going to be some hammering, so try not to jump. Yeah. So what I'm showing you here is the wrong way to do it. So if you've got this type of stitching chisel and you go all the way through, this pricking iron isn't made to do that. Okay? So you will find that it's going to be a bit of a struggle pulling it out. Also depends what leather you're using. These are exceptionally good pricking irons. They're from Abbey, England. If anybody knows Abbey yet. What you're supposed to do with these is give it a small tap. Can you see the holes? Yep. And then what we'll do is we'll take our sewing awl. This is a diamond awl. We've actually got there's a sewing machine stand over there, and there's a chap there called Jason Stockyoung, who is from Diamond Awl Leather. You may have seen him on one of the repair TV shows. He's called Diamond Awl Leather, that's for that. So diamond awl. And what we do with this is poke this all the way through. So this is the traditional way of hand sewing leather. This is what saddle makers do and bridle makers do. And the reason they do it this way is because they can get the teeth much closer together. So I've seen some of these, okay, so give this an example. This is 9 stitches per inch. And I've seen these at 14, which means they get really close together. But then if we go to the more modern way of hand sewing, we move away from the pricking irons, which are tapered, to a stitching chisel, which is the tines, the teeth that come straight up. Yeah, and these are made to go through everything. Yeah. So which ones have you got? Have you got these ones? You've got the other ones. So that'll be why you're facing difficulties. So if we just punch through with this, want to make sure it goes all the way through. I think that's all the way through. There's a really useful trick. There's a gentleman called Nigel Armitage, if you've seen him on YouTube, very good leather worker. And his thing is to slide the leather off the chisel. So I'm not going to try and pull it. If I try and pull this, it's not coming out, and it's going to deform all of my holes. So let's just punch some more holes. When we're doing a run of stitching, what we like to do is place the first tooth in the last hole or two, and then line up onto your stitching line. All the way through. So what I'm going to do is slide the leather off of the chisel. I'm just going to push. Much easier to get out. So if you're having issues with retrieving your chisel, don't just start pulling on it. We've all done it. I know you've done it, I can tell by the grin. We don't just want to start pulling on it and moving it about. Just push. You don't, I mean, this is an old bit of packaging material that I've just put my name on it. But something solid that you can just push down on. Also, if you get, so these are from Tandy Leather, and we can see that they were, the ends here, I've just stripped the paint off. The other thing that you can use is a little bit of beeswax. If you're really struggling, if your leather's sort of not the highest quality, if you've just got some recycled, upcycled bits, release agent. This one, a stitching chisel. I'm really lazy, and I much prefer to use a stitching chisel over a pricking iron. However, this set was £13 from Amazon. This set, the value is about $300. Does it make a difference? You'll have to watch my video to find out. Yeah, it does. Yeah. To be honest with you, when you're just starting out, it doesn't make that much of a difference, because we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to whack through. We're all going to break teeth. Go for the cheap one. You don't need this just yet. And when you do, you'll know. Any other questions on stitching chisels and pricking irons? Okay. Let's actually try and make something, shall we? And because I'm lazy, like I said, I'm going to use this one, because it's massive. So the higher the SPI, stitches per inch, the closer they're going to be. So if we actually have a look at this big fancy one, leatherworking tip trick: when you're stitching from the end of a piece of work, what we're going to do is place the first tine over the bit of leatherwork, and that way we know if we've got another piece to stitch onto the back of it, we know it's lined up. So hang it over the back, line it up, make sure you can see it in the light that you've got. I'm just going to slide this off. I mean, it fell off essentially. And then if we have a look at, so both stitching chisels, line this up so we can, there we go. So can we see on the screen, can we see the difference between the stitches per inch? So this one here, are we on the screen? Can we see it? Yep, thank you. Thank you for my tech assistance lesson, appreciate it. So we can see the difference between them. So this is also the difference between $150 and £25. I'm going to use that one to make this because it's easier. How much time we got? Okay. I might not make this wallet now. I might just show you some hand sewing.
Just so you know, man, you can run over if you want. We haven't got anyone on now, so feel free.
I kind of just want to show you the actual hand sewing. I've punched some holes. I want people to get excited about it. Let's punch some holes in this. So like I said, I did a bit of pre-work. Can we see this on the screen? So the edge on this, I might pass this around actually, is quite rough, but the edge on this top bit has been beveled and burnished. So the edge has been taken off, and we've used a slicker, which like this. And what we do is, a lot of people get confused with these. They think you roll it, you don't, you hold it, and you just rub it. So we're not pushing too hard. Nice even pressure. We're going for speed and heat. And what that will do is give us a nice edge. Feel that edge? And then feel that edge.
Oh yeah, yeah. No.
Does
that one of
anybody want to feel before I start? Yeah. No, so good question. So is that like the edges that you'll find on handbags and things like that? No, so what will happen with that is it's probably two pieces that have been folded over and stitched together, or it'll be multiple layers of leather. Yep, so can we...
Bring it to the camera, yeah, the camera will see it.
Camera. Can we see this on the camera? Yeah, that'll be paint. Yeah, so when it comes to beveling and burnishing, thank you very much. When it comes to beveling and burnishing, we're only really beveling and burnishing a vegetable tanned leather. If you've got something which is chrome tanned, chemically preserved, like what this is, just paint it. It doesn't have the correct material properties to be able to be beveled and burnished. You're fighting a losing battle, just get some edge paint, roll it on, we're done. There's some really flexible edge paints out there, which is similar to what you'll get on commercial bags and things as well. Did anybody want to feel the difference between burnished and unburnished leather? I've got a
Send it down.
here. Yeah, send it down. I thought so, which is why I made that bit. So I'm going to punch some holes, and if we've got any other questions, now would be a good time to pick some up.
You got a question?
Yep.
Oh, you want to feel it? You want to... Sounds weird when you say that out loud, doesn't it? Sorry, there you go. Does anybody have any questions while we're up? You may ask something.
So if you're left or right-handed,
The question was, does it matter if you're left or right-handed?
No. So you can get in. The short answer is no. The longer answer is when it comes to getting your stitching chisels. So can we? Is this focused? Can we see this? Yeah, no, thank you. You can get left and right-handed angled teeth. So these are all angled sort of this way, and you can get some which are angled the other way. The reason we do that is when you're doing sort of higher end things, you'd have the angles going one way and then the other. So they'd match. So you'd punch through this side, and then punch through this side, and they'd be going the same direction. We'll have a look why that matters when you get to that bit, because I'm not doing that. But left or right-handed doesn't matter. All you need to be able to do is hold something, hammer it. This is a leatherworker's maul. This is a Barry King something or other tapered maul, made for leatherworking, made for striking. You can use anything you've got. Try not to use a metal hammer. We don't like to strike metal on metal, but you can get, poly mauls reasonably cheaply. That'll do you. The only, like I say, the real thing that you will need, which is leatherwork specific, are these. There is a video on YouTube of somebody doing it with a fork. He just sharpens a fork up. So it's possible. I'm not doing that, but it's possible. Like I say, these sets, Amazon, eBay, £15 thereabouts, more than adequate for now. So let me just finish punching these holes.
Any other questions? Just raise your hand. I'll come back to you. Then ask a question, I'll ask a question.
Ask me what the two-prong one is for.
Sorry?
Ask me what the two-prong one is for.
Okay, so I've just been looking from over here, and I was just wondering, what's the two-pronged one?
Oh, the two-prong, that's a really good
Yeah, that
question.
one.
So the two-prong one's really useful for getting around corners. So as we can see here, we focus, you see it? Yeah, brilliant, thank you. So when we get to this corner, this is too long. We can't make this get round a corner. 2.1 and 4.1. My advice is, if you are going to invest, you only really need a big one and a little one. There's lots in between that if you know that if you've got a set pattern, which is a set length, you might want to use that one, but just in general, big one, little one. And then the other thing that you really want to have is an awl, a good diamond awl. we've got a bit of time afterwards. So if people do want to come and have a touch and a feel and play, absolutely come up and we can have a look. Of the leatherworking stuff, I heard that maniacal laugh.
We got a question. I think we got a question. And it better not be about what you can touch.
My question is, in terms of having different numbers of
Stitches per inch. Yep.
what's stopping you using, as you're approaching the corner,
Using what, sorry?
as you're approaching the corner, what's stopping you from just using it? You know how you use the last prop, the last hole with the first prop.
Yeah.
If you were to basically just move that along 1 or 2 stitches from,
Yeah, so
are you
absolutely.
going to open up the other previous stitches too much? The whole previous holes?
No, so the question there is when we're, I'll do it on this one. So we've already made some holes and we're going to put, we're going to continue our stitch line and we're going to put the first tooth in the last hole or the 2 or 3, doesn't matter. These are a fixed size, they're not going to make it any bigger. We're not removing any material, we're just moving it out the way. So we're not drilling a hole, we're not punching a hole, there's nothing like that. Yes, so the question is, especially for long runs, over them. However, when we get to a corner, I can't make this go around the corner. So what I'm going to do is use the 2-prong. 2-prong is really useful because you've got 1 in the last hole and 1 for your next hole. So with this 2-prong one, I'm only actually doing 1 hole at once. Can we see this on the camera? Yeah, well, I'm trying to do this with my fingers out of the way, but still holding it. I'm using a 2-prong, which means I need to use less force because there's less material to move. That's true.
Sick.
What about embossing? What stuff would you use to put patterns into the leather? What tools?
So, embossing or debossing?
What's the difference?
So that's a really good question. What is the difference between emboss and deboss? Can we see the logo on this? Yeah, so that is debossed. It's pushed from the top. It's pushed from the top and it goes down, and an emboss comes from the bottom and comes up. So if you think about old bank cards, credit cards, they were all embossed, whereas this is debossed. And what can we use to do it? So the thing that was used on that was from Delrin, which had been laser cut. However, you can get 3D printed stamps. So if you know something with a 3D printer, don't hit them because they'll shatter, but you can put them into a clamp or a vise. Brass is really, really good. There's loads of places. There's a company called Artisans, and they do beautiful brass, CNC'd, maker's marks, logos. So if you're doing a load of work, so I did some work for Fitbit and got it made up as a brass stamp. Costs a bit of money, but it lasts a very long time. If you're doing limited runs on things, you know somebody with a 3D printer, get a logo printed off, press it. That will only work on vegetable tanned leather. So if you've got your old sofa, it will hold, so you can press something into it, it will hold the image, whatever it is. However, by nature, it'll have some stretch to it, which means it'll just start stretching.
Down on the Dremel stand, they had this thing where they were using the Dremel stand to like carve slash engrave patterns onto
Yeah.
leather as well. Would that work on all the types of leather?
So when it comes to tooling leather, you've got anything tooled, haven't you? I don't tool leather because I've got a laser cutter and I'm lazy, to be honest with you. And you don't get paid enough because when you're actually tooling leather, it takes hours. It takes years to learn. Well, I can probably teach you it in an afternoon, but it's up to you to practice the art and get better at it. There's lots of people that do it. I don't do it. I'm lazy. Laser cutter. I'm lazy, honestly. But it will only go into vegetable tan leather, and you can't do anything on your upholstery leathers, garment leathers, anything like that. When you start cutting or carving into it, it's put a hole through it. So vegetable tan leathers, I'll have some cards at the end of the show, I'll stick them on the table somewhere. There's a company called Lion Leathers in Northampton, and they've got some of the best leathers I've ever seen at the best prices. And all I'm going to say is take cash. If you know, you know, okay? Yeah, so vegetable tan leather, not using anything that's been upcycled for things like carving. I mean, if it's an old saddle, then yeah, you could probably get away with it. But yeah, don't carve it. So this stuff, anything like this will take a reasonable carving, reasonable impression. So it's the same sort of depression that you'd be doing if you put your stamp into it. So moisten the leather, do your carving, do your tooling, reconstitute how it looks. That's your pattern, that's your picture.
Well, we got another question over here, so let's go take that one.
Hi, I recently did my very first leather project and it was awful.
Okay, so was mine. My first leather project was awful as well, don't worry, yeah.
What I was asking is, when I sort of hammered the fork in, I couldn't get it back out easily, so I distorted the leather. How do I avoid that?
That's a really good question. We've just had it. Let's watch and find out again. So when it comes to removing your stitching chisel from your leather, we're going to slide the leather off the chisel. Okay. I'm going to punch this on here. Did you want to come a little bit closer so you can, I don't know how well you can see on that because I can't actually see the screens. So on this one, just show you what I was doing. So I know that this is going to fold, and I know that I only want my stitches to go so far. So I'm roughly going to say about here, put a little mark on, and that's about where I'm going to go up to. Just in case you saw me doing that and I didn't explain what it was, it's because I didn't explain what it was. So if we look on here, if I go from this one, I've overshot, so I can come back to, yeah, that should do. Line it up on the line, tap, are we happy? Whack, definitely gone all the way through. The reason we want it to go all the way through is to this part of it. So we've got a fair bit of tooth coming through. Nice firm-ish object underneath, nothing stone, I'm using an old bit of leather. I'm going to hold it here, and I'm going to use my pulling block, and I'm just going to push. Make sense? So, any other questions? I've got a lot more hammering to do, so any questions? Yeah, that's fine. In that case, we're going to abandon this, and we're going to do some actual hand sewing.
Okay.
So I am going to... Who knows what this is? Who knows what this is? You don't know what this is? We have Jacko sat right here, everyone. One of the best knives I've ever seen used. It's got its own loop on my apron, and when it's not on my apron, I've got a belt pouch on. So, yeah. So let me just cut some leather off, and I'm just going to show you some basic hand sewing now. Punch some holes really quick. This is a dirty hack that if you don't have a wing divider, you can definitely do, but you didn't see me do that because I'd never recommend anybody does that. But I definitely just used the second time to put my stitching line on. It's a secret. So when it comes to hand sewing leather, we're going to do something called a saddle stitch. There are 16 different variants, I think it is, of a saddle stitch. I'm going to show you the most basic because we're all beginners. And if you're not a beginner, come talk to me later. So when we do I want this.
Are you good to take another question?
Yeah.
Question.
Hi there. What thread do you use?
Good question. I don't know where my needles are. My needles are in this pouch. My needles are not in this pouch. Uh-oh.
If you ever want to see what panic looks like,
Yes, this is panic setting in because they were in that pouch and I need them to do this.
Well, while you're panicking, we've got another. Oh, we're good.
God. Oh my God. They're on a magnet for a reason and they're stuck to this. Oh my word. That is exactly what panic looks like. So, what thread do we use? Really good question. So you can get different thicknesses of thread, and you'll normally find specific hand sewing thread. This is a waxed braided cord. So it's waxed, it has a bit of life to it. I always wax it anyway. And the reason we're using a braided cord, so if I sort of push this in a bit, can we see that it distorts and goes wider? Yeah, so we're going to do something called locking the thread or locking the needle. So I'm just going to wax this really quickly. Leather needles, different sizes, are blunt. Yeah, hand sewn leather needles, you get saddler needles, you get harness needles. Find the one you like. I use John James size 4 saddlery needles. What question?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Hi. Is it a different waxed thread to like
You can use the same. Just look. So the question was, is it a different wax thread to what you'd use if you're book binding? Use whatever you want, as long as it holds it. You can use hemp, you can use sinew, I'm using a wax braided one because I've got it in 20 different colours and they're £8 for 300 metres from eBay. Links in the description, but no way. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock the needle or lock the thread. So pushed it through. We're going to take the needle and push it through the thread itself. Really difficult to do at arm's length. Can we see this? Thank you, sir. What we're going to do with that, pinch the needle, pinch just above the thread and slide it up. We're going to slide it all the way down so it pops over the bottom. The reason we do that is it keeps the knot away from the eye of the needle, and why that's important will become apparent very shortly. So, if we can just move the... Yeah, I'll grab a seat very quickly. Who knows what this is? Don't say a chair. No, you're not allowed to answer. So this is called a stitching pony, or a sewing horse, or a third hand. What we do with this? Anybody know what we do with this? No. You had a private lesson at Last Maker Central. You do not get to answer these questions. So we're going to sit on this. This one was made for me by an old customer who's a woodworker. This one that's on the stand here, I designed in AutoCAD during lockdown because I was really bored. The patterns and the video for that are free to download from the website, so if you're any good working with ply, if you're any good working with wood, grab it, make it. We've got magnets built into it and a load of fancy stuff. The reason we've got magnets is so we can stick it on the side and we know where our needles are because you leave it stuck to the side and it doesn't wander in there. So when I said that there's 16 different types of saddle stitch, it depends what side you go from, it depends if you want to cast, if you want to do left hand priority, right hand priority, if you're pushing to the front or the back. So, one thread, 2 needles. Who here sews? What do I always do before I start stitching? No, don't prick the finger. We always do a back stitch, right? We always back stitch. We back stitch at the beginning, we back stitch at the end. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to go into the first hole, then second hole. Can we see the second hole? Okay, thank you, sir. And we're going to pull the thread so it's the same length. I'm going to left hand first. The left hand is going to go in. The right hand is going to reach all the way around. Can we see both sides of the leather? Excellent. Reach all the way around. We're going to pinch it. We're going to pull it. Can we see that that's got stuck? Yes. So the reason that's got stuck is because we've got a diamond stitching hole which goes on this angle, and we've got the thickest part of this needle and thread contraption is going through on this angle. So what we need to do is turn this so it matches the way that the hole is going, and it just slides straight through. That's the look I was looking for. So left hand goes in. We don't want to cross hands, so I'm going to goes back out a bit. Pinch. We can do things like casting, which is throwing the thread over. We can cast on both sides. We can back cast for 16 different ways, right? We're just going to go simple. So all we're going to do is pinch, pull, twist it towards ourselves, back into the same hole. We only do this on the first stitch because we've done a back stitch to make sure that it is nice and tight. So we've got the same length. We'll do. We are the tension. Anybody that's used a sewing machine, you can set the tensions. We are the tension. Left hand first into the hole, right hand around the back, pull, twist towards ourselves. I'm going to use this hand to clear the thread out of the way and poke it straight through the same hole. And then I always give a little tug. I'll show you why on the next hole. We are the tension. You'll learn, yes, I've got scars on my fingers from pulling, lots of hand sewing, things like that. You can make little leather covers for your fingers and things, but nice pull. So I'm going to try and mess this one up. So if I don't clear it, this is really difficult to do on purpose, and I'm going to mess this up on purpose. This will happen by accident, where you will put your needle through and you will go through your thread. If you pull this all the way through, it absolutely messes up the thread. We're using braided, which means we can get away with it maybe once. So that's why whenever I push this second needle through, I always pull on that to clear it. And we're going to pull. And then all it is a case of muscle memory, practice, and we can just start. It's very therapeutic, so we can absolutely sit. You look. Left hand, right hand round the back. We're going to clear the thread. I've got lots of videos on YouTube Shorts and full YouTube videos, just to remind you of all this stuff as well. So youtube.com/handmade by Alex. I love business cards and stuff out as well. If anyone wants to come and grab one of those off me. So let's see if I can give you this quick example here. At the beginning, I said about we want diamond holes. Can we see the stitching on the screen? Thank you. So if we look here, we can see that the thread is slightly angled down each run. That's on purpose. If we look at something like if we look at this, maybe this, so we can see on here on the front of this stitching, it's in a nice straight line. Yeah, and on the back it's angled. Okay. Have we got any more questions? Because I'm aware that we have run out of time. Thank you. I'll find it shortly. Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Do we have a winner for best question?
Best question? I feel like there was a lot of great questions. I think this gentleman started the day off very, very well.
Very strong.
But then we had quite a few from that lady there smashing it as well. Where are you feeling? You're the man with the plan. Well,
Jacko has spoken.
he has spoken. It's this lovely lady down here.
Come and see me. I'll be down at the meat makers area. I'll make this for you. Give me about 20 minutes. I mean, it takes hours to do this. Give me about 20 minutes. I'll give it for you. Any other questions? I'll have some business cards and things out. Reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Leave comments on the YouTube channels, on the YouTube videos, and try and get back to as many people as possible. We have some success stories of people that we met last year and have come back. So absolutely reach out. been an absolute pleasure talking to you all. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Everyone give a big round of applause to Handmade by Alex.